The U.S. has continued to uphold its solid foundation as a worldwide technology and weaponry powerhouse without regard to cost and testing the limits when it comes to the creation of cutting-edge weaponry of combat. In a recent move, the U.S. once more shocked everyone by putting the enigmatic F-24, the newest fighter jet. In what novel aspects does Yemen possess? What this fighter jet offers is this jet has the ability to alter the tides. Of any join us as we explore the war features of the updated US F-24 that was tested covertly in Yemen's F-22-2, commonly referred to as the Raptorus, the first fifth-generation to exist fighter aircraft. The evolution of the aircraft survived 6 years following a project. This aircraft was developed after being launched to swap out the outdated F-15 model legal combatant. Let's examine the past of its development. In May 1981, within the U.S. Air Force inquired with the aerospace industry to obtain details about a sophisticated tactical fighter to take the place of the current combat aircraft. An idea development group was established in 1983 to address the idea and technology development following concept refinement and specifying the needs for the system. A call for proposals was released in September 1985 with a covert emphasis Super Cruise request. As well, proposals evolved over time, becoming more December 1985 requirements for stealth hand, adding the requirement for aviation prototypes of technology demonstrators. In May 1986, 6 Northrop and Lockheed, chosen businesses from a group of 7 Lockheed and bidding companies, collaborated with General Dynamics and Boeing. During Northrop collaborated with Douglas McDonald. Each squad experienced a 50-month phases of demonstration and validation, resulting in 2 examples of technology YF-22 prototypes, as well ASIF-23, which featured rival designs and characteristics. The following stage was the phase of validation and demonstration, which required a great deal of testing and risk reduction initiatives. Lockheed updated the arrangement of the airframe in 19,186. Producing noteworthy contractors made adjustments using a variety of techniques, such as wind tunnel experiments and fluid dynamics. Computation requirements were changed in light of cost-performance trade studies. The brief takeoff and landing time needed was loosened, avionics changed, and estimates of weight expanded following thorough and rigorous testing procedures. That the YF-22 showed accomplishment of flight tests. In 1990, the findings and suggestions for comprehensive development were submitted, and eventually, the Lockheed Group and Whitney and Pratt took home the advanced competitions for engines and tactical fighters. April 1991. Even though the YF-23 was taken into, the YF-22 was faster and more stealthy, selected for cost-saving maneuverability and decreased risk to the F-22's price. The program for Raptor development cost $666.07 billion in serial manufacturing of the combat vehicle started in 1997 and continued until in 2011. At this time, there were 187 serial fighters. Jets were created and considered pre-production machinery count of 195. The cost of a single F-22 Raptor is $41.7. One of the exceptional attributes is the locator of this fighter jet, which is referred to as a dual radar station on board. AAPAG-77, using a phased array of active antennas. The Russian Sushkov will be shown on this station between 140 and 160 kilometers, or 85 to 100 million. However, the Russian pilot will be able to use his radar to detect the predator because of its extremely low EPR at just 40 to 50 kilometers, or 25 to 30 miles. Considering the F-22 is equipped with missiles with a 120 kilometers or 75 kilometers range miles, as the Russian aircraft turns out will be quickly shot down upon sight. This is the primary idea behind the F-22 Raptor. Additional features such as its capacity for high-altitude flying without the need for afterburners, Its potential to carry out stealthy advanced maneuvers and sensor fusion, or integrated avionics, which is the capacity to blend data from a range of sensors for superior consciousness, is the only goal for creating this combat aircraft is intended tour missions, especially the offensive and defensive rebuttal operations, and fighter jet design emphasizes using a mix of stealth and aerodynamic efficiency, and its formlowers, the radar cross-section when in alignment panel edges, planform, and continuous curve on surfaces that have delta wings on the aircraft leading edge, and 4 empin surface route flight control surfaces extensions consist of flaps, flaperons, ailerons, and rudders. Additionally, the area rule is applied to stabilizers boost supersonic efficiency, and the majority off fuselage volume comes first. A trailing wing internal storage is used for edge weaponry. For covered objectives, it has a refueling boom, as well retractable landing gear container and safety systems, and an emergency tail hook such as fuel, and a fire suppression system. Tank inerting mechanism for fighter jet survivability is divided into two. The F-119 engines, made by Pratt & Whitney, are placed in close proximity to one another. These engines are equipped with movable nozzles guidance to regulate the aircraft's movement between +20 and 2 degrees. These integrated nozzles are complete. Into the flight controls of the F-22 and every engine in the vehicle management system capable of producing the range's maximum thrust 35,000 pounds. Force its application to mass ratio, which represents its power, is almost equivalent to 1 at standard fighting weight. When employing the most force possible in the military, and increases to 1.25 when completed afterburner. The carbide inlets on the aircraft, which supply the engines with air placed rearward of the front of the fuselage to produce and reroute airflow. Effective flow of supersonic particles compression. When not using with extra gear, the F-22 can reach a peak velocity of roughly Mach 1.8 at military might, and superiority over with the internal fuel of afterburners 18,000, plus an additional 8,000 pounds in 12 jets external tanks. It can travel a ring exceeding 1,600 nautical miles in order to, as previously stated. The F-22 has a high cruise velocity and performs at a faster, greater altitude than previous fighters, enhances its weaponry and sensors, enhancing its efficiency and proficiency in enduring ground defenses, such as surfact-to-air missiles capacity for supercruising, which implies supersonic flight speeds that don't require additional fuel data to accomplish goals that other aircraft using afterburners exclusively wouldn't have sufficient fuel to reach its internal weapons bay. The location of its weapon storage assisted in continuing to perform better. In contrast to other fighters who have external stores, lowering the thrust's drag because of aerodynamics. It can fly at routine combat velocities of Mach 1.5 at 50,000 feet, offers a 50% longer range. For missiles fired into the air, and twice the dam's effective range in comparison to more senior platforms that can endure the strain and the heat from continuous supersonic travel. The F-22 structure has a sizable quantity of extreme power, approximately 42% of the structural materials titanium alloys and 24S epoxy bismuth composites of these substances, and additionally, structural design plays a role in the aircraft's good. Ballistic fighter jets' ability to survive their design, robust engines, and stability make it very adept at transferring and utilizing energy over its entire flight range. It has large special characteristics of control surfaces, such as Vortex produces LX and China nozzles with variable directions, enabling it to manage steep angles effectively. The aircraft can travel at a trimmed angle greater than 60 degrees, while remaining being in charge and performing maneuvers like the Pugachev's Cobra and the Herbst maneuver. A triple redundant fly-by-wire is used, complete authority, and a control system digital engine management, which makes it able to withstand sudden movements and simple for the pilot. This configuration provides the pilot with a feeling of comfort while operating the aircraft. The F-22 was intended to be challenging. For this is done using radar to find and follow it. by causing radio waves to reverberate, disperse, or absorb the plane. This is assisted by design, which shapes the body's curves and edges to be smooth, storing weapons inside and making use of substances that take in radar waves. They also focus on the little things, such as the pilot's helmet and hinges, so they also don't reflect radar, intended to release fewer radio waves, possess a reduced infrared signature, and produce reduced noise from the nozzles. Controlling the exhaust direction is also helpful. Lower the heat signature to stay out of the heat. In search of missiles, they employ unique cooling systems and coatings to oversee heat when traveling at high speeds. Overall, collectively, 17 used less radar absorbent substance that requires a lot of upkeep and is susceptible to negativity, as opposed to the B-2, which requires unique hangars with climate control on the flight line. The F-22 can be fixed, or it has a system in a standard hangar which alerts when its radar signature is required. Aircraft needs to be fixed and could use ATO conceal its Lundberg lens reflectoresses, while preserving the covert features. Functioning properly can lower the jet's capacity to complete tasks. Beginning with the F-22 has been experimenting with a fresh, glossy surface layer that appears. This extremely polished surface is similar to chrome, appears to alter color based on how you observe. The people who work on aircraft believe that this new it could be more difficult for infrared missiles and tracking devices to identify for F-22. This unique coating has additionally been observed on specific F-35 test aircraft. Additionally, the F-17 aircraft features a unique system that merges information from each of its sensors and transforms it into a strategic image. For this aids the pilot. Gain a better understanding of the circumstances and lessens their workload in a few significant ways. Within the aircraft are the Sanders, generally electric Martin A/R-94 electronic warfare system, ultraviolet and infrared Moretta and /A-56 Westinghouse missile launch detector instruments of Texas/77 electronically scanned and active array radar radio communication, guidance long-range SL identification suite, and advanced IRT that is currently undergoing testing. The operating system for these systems has 1.7 million lines of code, approximately primarily addressing mission systems similar to radar data due to the avionics processing the aircraft's electronic systems. Thus, combined with the programming upgrades to the ADA language, have been difficult to upgrade more quickly. An open mission was added by the avionics suite systems CPU in addition to an open source the Open Kubernetes platform systems enclave, permitting the application of third-party software, such as the APG-77. The F-22's radar is a unique radar that able to follow numerous targets in any weather. It possesses a quality that makes enemies find it difficult to detect. By tilting the radar's antenna facing backward, send out signals to engulf the adversary sensors. As a means of assault, it modifies frequencies electronically. Much to prevent being snooped on, and can find a target in roughly 125 to 150 milliseconds, giving away an improved APG-77 V1 version be employed for air-to-ground operations, as well, similar to mapping and following movable targets. Additionally, the fighter jet Hassan electronic warfare system, ALR-94 sophisticated apparatus, containing more than 30 antennas encircling the aircraft, identify dangers and identify radar signals. It has the ability to function passively, which means it locate targets that are beyond radar range. Can provide the pilot with sufficient details to keep in mind when a danger is identified by DET on the defensive systems, may instruct the pilot to land countermeasures such as chaff or flares to perplex the adversary. The MLD and advanced additional infrared sensors on the aircraft coverage, as well as long-range passive identification in order to remain undetectable of radio waves. The emissions from the CNI are restricted to and controlled by particular regions of 22, employs a unique communication system method for communicating with other F-22's radar and communication data. Two mission computers are used to process the aircraft has also been enhanced with a mechanism that aids in preventing it from automatically crashing into the ground. The F-22 can function in proximity to the combat zone and possesses the capacity to detect and recognize dangers such as the RC-135 rivet joint can also function as a tiny AWACS, despite the fact that its radar is not as powerful as those who are committed platforms, enabling the F-22 to rapidly determine targets for allies and collaborate with other enable. The F-22 aircraft employs technology dubbed iBus. Much like the commercial test of a firewire system in 2007, the F-22 radar functioned as a wireless data is sent by the transmitter at a speed of delivering 548 megabits per second and gigabit speed data, much more quickly than the 16th link system. The electronic assistance measure the F-22 system enables it to operate intelligence monitoring, as well as the F-22 has a reconnaissance mission digital flight with a high-tech cockpit tools, including a monochrome display head-up for critical flight information, in addition to a 6-color LCD panels that comprise the primary flight controls, a side stick controller with sensitivity, and despite having 2 throttles, the Air Force voice controls it at first. Was judged to be too dangerous and left the canopy measures about 145 inches and 27 inches tall, with a weight of 360 pounds. Updated following the initial iteration didn't fulfill the necessary robustness that the aircraft has incorporated radio features, and the signal virtualization is used for processing systems rather than independent hardware. The Keep-It integrated control panel handles its basis autopilot, navigation, and communications. The ejection seat is an altered model of life support, and the ASES-2 system has an onboard oxygen protective clothes for generators and a respiration control device. Following hypoxia-connected problems, an update to the system was made with a backup oxygen system that operates automatically and in combat, a new flight vest valve conditions that the ejection seat may be used for a GA-5A. A modified M4 carbine. There are 3 secret spots on the F-22 for bringing weapons inside the aircraft, 2 smaller ones and 1 large one at the bottom. Ones behind the engine on the sides. There are also tiny spaces with openings for flares or other countermeasures behind each. The central bay on the side bay can carry 6 long-range launchers weapons, but every side bay has a short-range missile launcher. The primary missiles in use are the 120 AMRAAM and A9 Sidewinder with a 260 planned addition. When the missiles are fired, the bay doors momentarily open, pushing the missiles out swiftly to reduce detection and operate at rapid speeds. The aircraft also has a 20mm rotating internal cannon, and the pilot's display shows the firing path. Show off the fighter's distinct features of the attack angle. Additionally, the alleged alpha speed can keep your roll under control when you're performing maneuvers, like the Herps maneuver where Cobra Puka makes a sharp turn, which occurs when the aircraft freezes in. This fighter jet is in a vertical position. 6 at 10 AMRAAM air-to-air injuries missiles with a 120-kilometer range and 2 short-range A9 and Sidewinder missiles featuring a maximum range of 22 mi or 35 kilometers. Additionally, aircraft can transport JDAM GBU-39 and corrective bombs SDDB-53B. All these internal bays have weapons to lessen the fighter's radar visibility, and the firing rockets and dumping supersonic bombs were also present on board. 20mm cannon M61 A2 Vulcan is present, which allows you to generate 480 salvos. Regarding the likelihood of the machine that it was intended to endure strikes to the fugitive fragmentation 30M incendiary shells, which made up the foundation for the ammunition of Russian aircraft guns aircraft, that the aircraft ended up being distinctive to the extent that the U.S. Congress enacted a national legislation in 1999 which forbids its export to any overseas power, in spite of the curiosity demonstrated by Australia and Japan, who desired purchase it instead of the less expensive 35. Israel had its eye on the Predator as well. But in the end, the Congress even contemplated selling F-35. Israel received some F-22s with shortened functionality, but no consensus was discovered. Some launchers can be switched in the main bay. For bomb racks that can hold up to 20,000 pounds of air to bombs on the surface, while it can bear GPS-guided explosives, such as JDAMs, and laser-guided weapons, cannot be guided by SADVS. While the F-22 typically carries its weaponry features 4 hard points. For external attachments on the wings, a pylon can be held by each hardo using a launcher or a detachable 600 grams fuel tank equipped with a pair of air-to-air missiles can remove external tanks in order to keep this fighter's performance and stealth after. Jet requires a 3-week maintenance plan 300 hours after takeoff. The coatings that give it its stealthiness are meant to be more resilient to inclement weather than past stealth aircraft. But when they 2009 saw the coatings sent to Guam, almost a third struggled to manage the rain. The reason for maintenance work is stealth attributes, particularly the coatings. They are attempting to improve coatings to lessen the necessity for maintenance. F-22 maintenance is carried out at Ogden, Utah's Air Logistics Complex, and they are typically handled carefully because in 2015, there weren't many F-22s available 63% of the time for missions and enhancement from 40% when they were initially presented in 2005. The amount of time devoted to upkeep for each flying hour was cut down from 30 hours to meet the 10.5 HEX 2009 deadline. In 2014, the required 12 hours were completed 43 man-hours for every flying hour upon its initial release. The F-22 required maintenance on average every 1.7 hours, which was shorter than the necessary 3 hours. From 2012 to 2015, it increased to 3.2 hours. The price per flying hour was fortunately, the Pentagon has $56,000, acknowledged its distinct quality in spite of its deficiencies. To improve it, Lockheed Martin was awarded a $10.9 billion contract, which, in November 2021, he signed for the 10-year F-22 modernization program of Fort Worth, Texas. Project seeks to prolong the life of the F-22 until the middle. Modernization of the century entails replacing onboard machinery and software, enhancing optical and radar stations of location, improving interactions, and swapping out the stealth teasing. A fresh one from F-35 and F-22 will both become more sophisticated. Air-to-air missiles. I appreciate you viewing. Click the "While You're Still Here" button to link to view another on your screen in one of our videos. You there?